There are three critical phases to effective living that leads to effective change. And the first phase I will be talking about this morning is the emotional energy phase. That every situation you find yourself, every problem you want to address is always triggered by your emotions. Every inappropriate situations, every gaps, every lackness is always triggered by emotions. That you identify the part in your life that is not working through emotional energy. When you see people clamoring, complaining, and all of that, that is emotional energy phase. That is emotional energy phase. And that is the phase that majority of people remains. And that is why they cannot generate any change in their life. When you remain at the emotional energy phase, it is not possible for you to generate any change. It is not possible to generate any change when you remain at the emotional energy phase, the phase where you identify the things and you begin to complain. When you feel negative about something, that the feeling is triggered by emotion. Maybe it's about your career. You are not okay about your career. Your career is not progressing the way you want it. Your businesses is not progressing the way you want it. So the feelings towards that, it's the emotional energy. The feeling about this thing is not working well. This is not how I want this. This is not how I want this. All of this is the emotional energy. And that is the first phase to every changes. Every situation begins with this emotional energy phase. You identify that your source of income is not enough. What is coming in is not enough. This is identified through your emotional energy. Okay. So every situation that is not suitable for you, it is identified through your emotional energy. And that is the first phase to every change. The first phase to every change is that emotional energy. Identify what needs to be changed. Identifying what needs to be changed. Is it your relationship? Probably you are not receiving enough from your relationship. So, and you begin to feel like, I do not like this. This is not what I want. This is not what I seek from relationship. This is not what I seek. So that is a feeling that is generated by your emotions. But majority of people remain at this emotional energy phase. And that is why many are not able to generate change to situation that requires changes. The reason why many are not able to generate changes to situation that require the change is because they remain at the emotional energy phase. They keep complaining. They keep talking to people about the situation. And that will not change the situation. That is not an effective living. It is only an effective living that will translate effective change. And I've said it at the beginning here that your current situation, you behaved yourself into it. You walked into it. And so you need a new behavior to get yourself out of it. You need a new pattern of thinking. You need a new pattern of looking at things to get out of that situation. But that is the most difficult thing for people because the easiest phase in life is the emotional energy phase. All of us, we have the emotions. We can feel situations. We can feel situations that are not good for us. Emotion is abundance in all of us. We have enough emotions. And so when we find out a situation that is not palatable, the emotion triggers. Emotion is free, it is triggered easily. Anybody can have this emotion. At age 1, at age 2, at age 3, you can be triggered. And that is why the emotion alone is not enough. That is why you do not have to remain at the emotional energy phase. If you really want to effect a change, if you really want to effect a change, you must not remain at emotional energy phase. A madman can be triggered. A madman has emotion. Anybody has the emotion. And so what differentiates you is when you begin to move beyond the emotional energy phase. Timmy, thank you. Timmy. Anybody can be triggered by emotion. Anybody can be triggered by emotion. But the difference is that the ability to move beyond that emotional level and move to the second phase and the third phase. And I will be talking about all the phases here today. Because the purpose of this conversation is for us to be able to move from that emotional phase to what I call the behavioral phase, which is the last phase of effective change. Many people have been at the same spot for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years because they remain at the emotional energy phase. They've not been able to translate from emotional energy phase to what I call the thinking energy phase and thereby to behavioral energy phase. You behave into your current situation and you cannot pray yourself out of it. You cannot wish yourself out of that situation. If you are triggered by your location, that your location is not serving you well, complaining about it will not solve it. If you are triggered about your relationship, that your relationship is not serving you well, complaining about it will not solve it. This is the problem with majority of us. We remain at emotional energy level, complaining, fighting, dragging ourselves here and there. But that will not change it. That will not change it. I once talked about observation, that in this world, we do not lack observers. In fact, everyone in this world is an observant. But in what way are you observing? Are you observing to complain or you are observing to create solution? This is the second one that majority of us do not have. All of us sees errors. We feel things that are not working. But do we feel it to complain or we feel it to address the situation? Do we feel it to complain or we feel it to address the situation? Do we observe to address the situation or we observe to complain? Majority of us every day on a daily basis when we go out, we see things that are not working well. We see things that are not moving in our community, in our environment, in our own life. But we solve them to complain, not to address it. And this is how we also deal with our own life. We see situation in our life just to complain and not to address it. But the truth is that we want to address them. We want to solve the problem. We saw what is not working in our life to address it, to solve it, not to complain. But what we have resorted to is to complain, is to murmur. And that is why many of us have seen something that needs to change for the past 10 years, for the past 5 years. But because we have not been able to move beyond that level of complaint, because we have not been able to move beyond the level of energy, the emotional energy. And I've said it, everybody, every human being has the emotion. Everybody can use the emotion. Everybody can feel something. But the difference between someone that is mature and someone that is not yet is the ability to move beyond the emotional level. It is the ability to move beyond the emotional energy phase and translate into thinking phase. And so the second phase is what I call the thinking energy phase. This is the phase where after you have identified what requires a change, you begin to sit down and think about that situation. You begin to sit down and think critically about the situation. If it is about your relationship, you then sit down and say, what is happening about my relationship? Why is my relationship not serving me well? Why am I not gaining from my relationship? And I've once talked about relationship that on many levels, most of us are not able to unlock our relationship. You are not able to unlock your relationship. All you do in your relationship is just to have chit and chat. It's just to have conversation. It's just to talk. It's just to play around. And that is why your relationship is not serving you well. So when you identify your relationship as a problem, the solution, the first solution is not to get out of that relationship. It's to look at yourself and look at how you've been addressing the situation. It's to look at how you've been dealing with your relationship so far. Because majority of us, when we get to some enlightening point, the next thing is that we just want to jump out of that situation, instead of us to critically address it. Jumping out of situation is not the solution. You are not solving the problem. You are running away from the problem. And the more you run into the same problem. The more you try to run from a situation, the more you are running back into that situation. And so the way forward is to critically look at it, address it, moving forward. So if at the emotional energy level, you've been able to identify that your relationship is a problem, then the first thing is not to jump out of that relationship. The first thing is to look at the relationship. Why is this relationship the problem? How am I addressing, how have I been approaching the relationship? Do I really have deep conversation with my relationships? Have I really sat down with my relationship to think about, okay, what do I really want here? Is the relationship based on business? Okay, what can I generate from this relationship? Did I even define the relationship from the beginning? Because you cannot benefit from a relationship that you have not defined. What is the purpose of that relationship? Why did you enter into that relationship? What is your thought process before you get into that relationship? Mohammed, thank you. This is an effective living. The conversation here is about effective living. How can we move from emotional energy to thinking energy and to behavioral energy? And these are the three phases to solve anything that requires a change. These are three phases that it requires to solve every issues in life. You've got to be able to move beyond that emotional energy. Stop complaining, stop murmuring. You have identified a situation. You have found out that this thing is not serving you well. So, but the complaining about it is then not the solution. The next phase is to move to thinking energy phase and begin to critically digest it. Look at how far you've come with that situation. Is it your location? Is it your relationship? Is it about your career? Is it about your business? Why is the business not moving forward? Probably it could be about your location. You have a great product, but this product is supposed to serve people between the age of 18 to 25. But your location is populated with people in their 50s. Your location is populated with people in their 40s. Nobody will demand for your product. Yes, it's a fantastic product. A lot of organizations has evaluated the product. They said it's a good product. But you need to evaluate your location. Why are people not demanding that product? Why are people not asking for that product? So this is that phase where you need to identify what requires to change. And then going forward, you begin to now look at location that matches your product. And then you move down there. That is the behavioral energy phase I will be talking about later. After you've identified what your situation requires, then you need to switch into action. Majority of people have not been able to address their situation because they live and they remain at the emotional energy phase, the phase at which they identify the situation. You cannot just stop at the phase of identification and expect a change. You cannot stop at the phase of identification and expect a change. Yes, your emotion has identified the problem. So what's the next thing? How are we moving forward? Moving forward is to move forward to thinking energy phase. You are seeking employment. You need a job. Have you critically sit down and look at your skills? Oh, you've gone out, you've talked to people, you have done this and all of that, but probably your skill is not enough. Probably you have not built enough skills that will give you the kind of job you're seeking for, that will give you the kind of job you are looking for. Probably your boss complain about you all the time. Have you sit down to look at the reason why? Probably you are not well detailed when it comes to your job. You are not detailed enough. You don't carry yourself well enough. So you are not supplying the right thing that your boss needs. That on many times it is still your boss that will come to do the finishing part of your job. Have you critically looked at the reason? This is an effective living that leads to effective change. No change occur on its own, No change occurs on the platter of feelings. Oh, I feel that I need this. I feel that I need that. I saw people doing this and I think I qualify for that. Anybody can feel, anybody can wish, but that will not bring the change that you want. There are so many countries now, they are clamoring about their leadership. But is it about that complaint that will change their leadership? That is not what will change it. You can protest, you can fight, you can do so many things, but that situation will not change. You can complain about your boss, you can complain about people, you can do this, but if you have not sat down properly to look at why the situation is that way, what is the source of that situation? What brought you there? Because let me tell you, what brought you here might not be able to take you to where you are going. And so you've got to be able to identify what brought you here. And that is what you are to be doing at the thinking energy phase, where you put your thinking cap on. You observe deeply, you ask yourself critical questions. You know, the ability to think determines how you can solve a problem. The ability to think critically. Look at it from different angles. Why am I here? What brought me here? Digest, digress deeply, and look at the situation critically. Complaining, murmuring, and all of that is not the way forward. I've once said on this platform that majority of people do not understand. Some people go about doing what is called prayer. When they find a situation, then they go ahead and pray about it. I want the change. I want this. I want that. That is not how to get a change. That is not how to get a change. You have got to build attention towards that thing. And you've got to give it the time to think around it, look at it critically. Why is my relationship not serving me well? What is the conversation I often have with my relationship? What is the conversation I often have with my relationship? Is it always about casual conversation? Because definitely every casual conversation will generate casual results for you. But at the end of the conversation, you are going to your house and you are thinking, I do not benefit anything. I'm not gaining anything from this relationship. You're not going to gain anything because you are always having casual conversations. You're not going to gain anything from your relationship because you did not build purpose for that relationship from the beginning. And so if you decided to leave that relationship, you will attract the same kind of people. So if you choose to get out of your relationship because you think it's not serving you well, you're still going to attract the same kind of mindset. You're still going to attract the same kind of people. And so jumping out of that relationship is not the way forward. It is looking at yourself. How did I start this relationship from the beginning? Did I define this relationship? What is the purpose of this relationship? And so if you are able to now do this deeply and going forward, you are not able to find what you want in that relationship, you can then begin to use your new mindset to gain and attract new relationship. It is really about this second phase. You think critically about the situation that has been triggered by your emotional energy. We have a lot of observance, but on what basis are we observing? On the basis of complaint? We observe just to complain. We observe to murmur. But that will not effect a change that we seek. The complaint and the crying is not going to effect the change that you seek. And that is why this conversation is tagged effective living. Effective living. It is only effective living that will bring effective change. Cool. With this understanding, if you can follow this understanding properly, you're going to have all you want. You're going to address your current situation and then generate abundance. The world was designed to bless you. The world was designed to fund everything that you want. But because you have not been able to position yourself very well, you have not been able to spend time to look at your situation and deal with it. So it is about getting to the point where you have spent your energy to identify a solution, your emotional energy to identify what is the problem, and then move to that thinking phase. It is about my business. What is about your business? People are not demanding for your products. Why? Why? Is your product for some certain people and your location is a different people? If your product is for people at the age of 10 and then your location is people at 40 and 50, nobody will demand for that product. So you are already serving wrong population. If your product is for younger people, but your location is for older people, you're already at the wrong location. And so your job is to then sit down and critically look at it. Okay, where next is the best location for this product? Where is the best location for this product? And then you begin to plan to move down there. So complain about your situation is not the way forward. Identifying it, moving from that emotional energy that has identified the problem to thinking energy. I was low. So the ability to move from emotional energy phase where you complain about your situation to thinking energy phase where you begin to look at it critically. You begin to itemize it. You begin to itemize it. I talk about skill in your own career. Is it maybe what is not allowing you to progress is because you have not been able to build the right skills. I talk about technical skills. I talk about soft skills. That a lot of people have built skills that is only technical, but they've not been able to build soft skills that will help that technical skill to thrive. As you are spending quality time to build your technical skill, you've got to also build strength to build your soft skills. As you are spending enough time to build your technical skills, you've got to also spend good time to build your soft skills. Because after you have built your technical skills, you still have to communicate with people about your skills. You still have to talk to people about your skills. You still have to express your skills. And so communication skills fall under soft skills. You've got to build communication skills. You've got to be able to tell people what you do. You've got to be able to tell people about your job. And also interpersonal relationship skills, how to deal with people, how to work with people, how to collaborate with people, is another skills that falls under soft skills. That no matter how fantastic your technical skills, if you have not been able to build soft skills to support it, you're still not going to thrive. You're still not going to thrive. Melissa, that no matter how fantastic the skills you have built in the area of accounting, in the area of IT, in the whatever area you have built your skills, you still have to build soft skills to market that your skills, that's your technical skills. And so maybe your problem is not about the skills you have, it's about the soft skills you have not built. And so being frustrated about your situation is not the way forward. Finding out what is the problem, why are you here, and then how can you move away from here is the way forward. Why are you Sunday sword? So the conversation is about effective living to effective change. That every change you seek requires an effective living. And I'm trying to break it down into three phases: the energy, emotional energy phase, the thinking energy phase, and then the behavioral energy phase. So your situation is not the only solution situation. A lot of people have gone through your phase. A lot of people have experienced what you are experiencing, and they've moved out of that situation to the next level. They've moved out of terrible relationship. They've moved out of terrible location to a great location, to a great relationship, and to a greater life. But because you only complain about your situation, you stay in that emotional energy phase. You cannot think properly to get out of that situation. You think your relationship is the problem, you jump out of it. And as you are jumping out of that situation, relationship, you are jumping into the same relationship, but with different people. As you are running out of your current relationship, you are running into the same relationship, but with different person. Because it is your mindset that is attracting people. And until you work on that mindset, until you work on that your thinking pattern, thinking process, you will keep attracting the same kind of people. And that is why you think you are addressing your situation, but you are not addressing your situation. You are only running away from your situation. You are jumping out of it. You are jumping out of it. So some people are living, they are moving from one job to the other, one job to the other, but they've not been able to address their skill gap. You have not been able to address your skill gap. You are working in this company, you often have problem with your boss and all of that, and you think leaving that company is the way forward. You think, oh, the next thing I have to do is to look for another company. You will get into another company and you face the same problem because you have not identified the core problem. You have not been able to spend that your thinking energy to address and identify the core problem. On many levels, the reason why your boss is always fighting you is because you are not doing a good job. It's because you are so much in a hurry whenever you are given a task and you are not taking your time to do the job very well. So you need to go and build patient skills then. You need to go and learn how to be patient. When your boss gives you your job, you need to deeply understand it and do it thoroughly. Maybe sometimes it is communication problem. When your boss is telling you something you do not understand, but instead of you to ask, it is not easy for you to always ask. So instead of you to address the core issue, the bottom of the issue, you are jumping from one place to the other. You are running from one relationship to the other. You are running from one company to the other. So instead of you to sit down, deeply think, use your thinking energy to find out the bottom line, the real cause of the problem, and address it. Instead of that, you are jumping from one place to the other. That is not how to effect change. That is not how to effect a change. To effect a change, you need your thinking cap. You need your thinking energy. You need your thinking attention. Look at it deeply, critically. You can spend good number of months, you can spend good number of days, you can spend even years thinking about the source of the problem. Because you do not generate a solution to a problem you have not deeply identified. A problem you have not really understood. It is not possible to address it. And so, because many people have not been able to really identify their problem, they've not been able to address it. They keep doing surface solution to their problem. And let me tell you, you can be in that problem for 20 years, for 50 years. And it will get to a point where you just accept that situation. It will get to a point where you will just accept your situation. But that is not your situation. You can change it. You can move out of it. You can get to a better phase of your life. But you need your thinking cap. You need to move beyond your emotional energy phase and move to your thinking energy phase. Use your energy. Give that situation a proper attention, a deep attention. Connect with that situation and understand that situation very well. So you've got to be able to put your thinking cap down, support it with your energy, support it with the attention that it requires, and begin to think critically around it. Think critically around it. Study the situation very well. Thank you, Alice. Nuri. Do not accept the situation that you do not want. Do not agree with the situation that you do not want. Address it. Address it. There's a solution to every problem. If you can give it the right attention, if you can give it the right thinking level. But so many people have accepted their situation. So many people have agreed to their situation. So many people have aligned with their situation, and then they begin to build all kind of narrative around it. You know, it is God given. It is God that is doing it. It is, oh, it is this, it is that. So we've aligned with our situation and we've accepted the situation. And we've also built narratives around it. You know, it is God's time. It is God's doing. It is this one. It is that one. And we're even we have even seen so many examples, and then we try to agree with it. So, whatever situation, whatever area of your life that requires a change can get that change. Thank you, King. Whatever area that requires a change in your life can receive that change. You do not need to reject yourself and relegate yourself to that situation. Do not relegate yourself to that situation. Do not bow for it. Mentane, you're from Jaffa, okay. Do not relegate yourself to that situation. Do not match yourself. Do not align yourself with that situation. Look at it critically. Think about it critically. You will get out of it. But it requires that your thinking energy. Do not stop at emotional energy. Just complaining. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, the King. Do not relegate yourself to emotional energy phase where you only complain about the situation, where you have surrendered to a power that you do not know. You have surrendered everything to the universe. Said that is life. That's not life. That is not life. It is life because you have accepted not to think about it, not to give it the right attention, and build the right behavior that situation requires. And so you have relegated yourself to that situation. You have relegated yourself to that location. You have relegated yourself to that circumstance. And so the second phase is that thinking energy phase. The thinking energy phase, where you give that situation great attention, deep attention. I do not want this. I want a change in this area. My career is not moving forward. I want a change in this area. You study it very well. My relationship is not doing well. I want a change here. You have got to deeply give it attention and deeply study it. Study the situation very well and gain clarity around it. Don't run away from any situation. Don't run away. The company you are working, you are facing here, you are facing several issues. Don't run away from it. Find a way, because if you run out of that company, you go into another company, you will face the same problem. My relationship is not working fine. If you leave that relationship, you will face the same relationship. If you have not fixed your belief process, if you have not built your thought process, the same mind that attracted the first relationship will lead you to the next relationship. If you use the same mind that took you into the first relationship to go into another relationship, it will remain the same. It will be the same relationship with different people. Say nice. Thank you. Thank you for staying here. Alice, thank you. So you have got to move to that thinking energy phase where you critically look at your situations and stop running all the time. Whenever you get into one situation, you are running. You are not addressing it. You are not solving it. You are not solving it. It is only when you solve that problem that you become a free individual. It is only when you solve that problem that you have generated a change, and then your life becomes better. If your relationship requires you to fix your mindset, your belief process, your thought process, do that. Take on that and do it. Take on that task and do it, and then you will praise yourself for doing it. Do not be lazy. Do not be lazy. Samet, do not be lazy. Spend the time it requires to study it, understand it, and then begin to now address the issue. If you need to change some certain behavior, you change it. If you need to change location, you change it. And then the last phase is what I call behavioral energy phase. Behavioral energy phase. Behavioral energy phase. This is the phase where, after you have deeply think about the situation and you have find out what it takes to fix it, and you go into action. Behavioral energy phase is action phase. You have identified skill gap in your career, and then at the behavioral energy skills, at the behavioral energy phase, you begin to put up skills. You begin to build that skills. In goes your car for. At the behavioral energy phase, what you do there is that you begin to do the work. You begin to do the heavy lifting of actions. This is a skill that you need. You begin to build that skill in your behavioral energy phase. This is the thinking process you need. You begin to build it. This is the reason why my relationship is not working, and then you begin to fix it at the behavioral energy phase. Because every situation requires a certain behavior. Your skill building is a behavior. Your thinking process is a behavior. Your perception is a behavior. And that is the final phase of life. You begin to move into that behavior. It is that behavior that you need to build. That is more like positioning. When you build that behavior very well, if it is about your relationship, you begin to attract the right relationship, or you begin to unlock the same relationship that you have. You begin to take advantage of the current relationship properly because you have understood how relationship works. You have understood how to position relationship. You have reconfigured the purpose of that relationship and you are addressing it properly. That at every time you are with your relationship, you are having the right conversation you need at the right time. You are not just being casual with relationship. You are building relationship. You are having conversation in your relationships. And if thank you. So at the behavioral energy phase, it is the phase where after you have think and you have identified what it requires, you begin to do what it requires. You begin to do what it requires. Now you have identified that your business is sited in a wrong location. What is the way forward? You can keep producing from that location, but you have a warehouse in another location. You can keep producing in that same location, but you begin to have outlets in other locations. And then you produce from here, you supply those other warehouses, that locations that supports your products. You might not need to leave that location for production, but you might only need to create other outlets in other locations where you understand that there is customer for that product. That is after you must have do your thorough and deep thinking around the cause of the reason why you are not selling your products. You have a great product, you have a fantastic product, but you're not selling. Maybe you are not selling because you are sited in a wrong location. The people in that location does not need your products. And so after you have identified that you need a new location, you can keep producing from that location, but supplying other locations. That is about business. If it is about relationship, you have not identified that oftentimes you have casual relationship. Oftentimes you have casual conversation with your relationship. And you then begin to now understand that you need to restructure your relationship. You need to build a new mindset. You need to build a new thought process and begin to address your relationship properly. Not casual friendship any longer. It is about deep conversation. It's about relationship. It is about conversation that will propel you. It's about conversation that will move you forward. Because oftentimes your current relationship is okay, it's right, it's good. But the reason why you established that relationship is not there. You did not have purpose for that relationship from the beginning. Jamal Jibara. Jamal Jibara, thank you for staying. Thank you. Ekan. So probably that relationship is not the problem. Probably it's because you did not really identify the purpose for that relationship from the beginning. You're just having relationship. You're just having fun. But you do not want only the fun. You want the benefit of that relationship. So you need to then sit down and quickly address it and begin to put up the behavior, the right behavior that will help you maximize that relationship. Or you need to build a new thought process, a new mindset that will help you attract right people. You need to now move from that, your thought process, that your belief. And when you begin to build a new self, you begin to attract new relationship, new people that will give you the kind of relationship, the kind of taste you want in relationship. This is the behavioral energy phase, where you begin to take action on what you have identified on thinking energy phase. The behavioral energy is where you begin to push into action. You begin to do those things that you have identified that you need to do. But because most of us are lazy, it is hard for us to move from emotional energy phase through thinking phase and down to behavioral. It's too deep, it's too long, it's too wide. But the only thing that can effect a change is for us to move beyond emotional energy alone. Thank you, thank you. The only thing that can help you effect a change is to move beyond emotional energy phase, go through the thinking energy, and go down to behavioral energy. If you're not able to process, if you're not able to go through these three phases, you're not going to generate any solution. If you're not able to move through these three phases I've mentioned, you're not going to provide any solution to what requires a change in your life. Effective living to effective change. It is about action. It's about reverse engineering. It's about doing what it takes to get what you want. Every next level that you require, every next level that you want requires a new behavior. And until you can put off that behavior, you're not going to earn it. You wish for a better life, you wish for promotion, you wish for expansion in your business, but every level requires a new behavior. Every next level requires a new behavior in your relationship. If you really want to enjoy your relationship more, you need a new behavior. Either you upgrade the current one. You need a new behavior to every situation that you seek in your life. If you want your career to boom, you need to sit down, identify the new behavior, and put it up. If you want to attract great guys, great people for your relationship, you need to put up, identify the behavior, and put it up. And that is the last phase, behavioral energy phase. That is action phase. Behavioral energy phase is the action phase. If your location is not serving you well, you need to then identify that location. You have put up that behavior. As you are moving to that new location, that is a new behavior you have put up. Yarin, thank you, Yarin, thank you. Usatopuria, thank you. So you've got to address every situation from that first energy level down to thinking level, down to behavioral level. But majority of people stop at emotional energy phase. And I've said it at the beginning, everybody has emotion. Everybody can be triggered. Anybody can be triggered. A kid, a 10-year-old child can be triggered towards a situation. Say, I don't like this situation. I don't like this person. I don't like this phase. Anybody can be triggered with emotion. Emotion is free. We all have it. But the way forward is to move beyond emotional energy phase, move to thinking phase, and identify that behavior and begin to put it up. That is the only way to generate effective change. That is the only way to generate effective change. No join. Thank you. I know almost virtually everybody want a change. People want a change in their business. People want a change in their life. People want a change in their relationship. But it is not only identifying that thing that needs a change. It goes beyond identifying what needs a change. You have got to move beyond that level to identify what it requires to effect that change and be here. You have got to move beyond the change alone and move to level to identify what you need to do. You need to think to know what you need to do to change that situation. That is the work, Mustafa Baki. That is the job. That is the deep job. And that is what differentiates emotional people to people who change things. That is what change people from being emotional to changing situations. Simo, thank you. On many levels, you look at people doing things, doing stuff, and you see that they are not really better than you. They are not better than you, but they are doing something that you are not doing. They are doing something that you are not doing. And it is behavior. It is the behavior they put up. You can start today and begin to build that behavior gradually. I once said that the difference between mediocre and greatness is a thin line. It's very small on a daily basis. The difference between mediocrity and greatness is a thin line. It's very small on a daily basis, but the result is tremendous down the line. The result is tremendous down the line. A mediocre keep complaining, but a great individual keep building behavior day by day. And before you know, down the road, he has built something great. Down the road, he has built something mighty. He has built something fantastic. I often tell people about the big thing syndrome. The big thing syndrome. Many people think it's about one big thing that you need to do to change your situation. It is not about the big thing. It's about identifying that thing and begin to do them every day and commit to do them every day. Hussein, Mevlud, thank you. So to effect that change at that last phase is you've identified and begin to do it consistently. Begin to do it on a daily basis. Jad. And before you know, down the road, you have built a different person entirely. Down the road, you have built something mighty entirely. But when you look at it on a daily basis, it might look little, it might look small. Daily effort can look small, but down the road, it has built something different, has built something mighty. Rito, you want to join the live? Do you understand the conversation before you join? Do you understand the conversation? The conversation is about effective living that breed effective change. Effective living to effective change. That every situation is always triggered by emotional energy. But on many levels, most people remain at the emotional energy. They do not move to thinking energy phase and thereby to behavioral energy phase. And I said that every human being has emotion. And so you can be triggered by so many things. You can be triggered by situations. But the difference is that you've got to move to that thinking energy phase where you look at the situation critically, where you address the situation and you begin to do that things that it requires. The behavioral energy phase is where you begin to do what that situation requires. It is about skill building. You've got to start building the skills. Is it about changing the thought process? You've got to begin to change the thought process. A madman can be triggered. Anybody can be triggered. A kid can be triggered by a situation. I don't want this situation. I don't like this. I don't like that. Anybody can be triggered. But the difference is that some people move from that trigger level. They move to thinking level. They move to a point where they begin to engage the situation and look at it from all angles. They bring people around. They bring people on board. They begin to look at the situation critically. And immediately they are able to find a way out. They move to a level where they begin to now address it. That's action level. That's behavioral level. You don't just effect a change. You need to live a certain life to effect a change. You need to do some certain things to effect a change. For some people, it's about strategy around their businesses. You need to begin to build strategy. You need to begin to build strategy every day around the business. You want to scale the business, you need to begin to build that strategy around it. So nothing change with emotional energy alone. If it's about emotional energy alone, so many things will have changed. And so many people will be living a great life now. If it's about your emotional energy, a lot of people would have received change. Because to go to the bed alone, you can trigger something. Your emotion can trigger something. To step out in the morning alone, your emotion can trigger something. But is it always about emotional energy? No. It is always about, is it always about trigger? No. You can just wake up and say you do not like this person, you do not like this relationship, you do not like the other one. But what are you doing about it? Are you spending the right energy to think about it and develop a change that it requires? And develop that behavior that it requires to change. Hamza, Effective change requires effective living. You've got to be intentional. You've got to be intentional. Obinaya. Every effective change requires intentionality. It requires an effective living. You have got to build a certain lifestyles that will effect that change. If it's about skills, you've got to build the right skills. If it's about unlocking your relationship, you've got to unlock that relationship and not run away from that relationship. Because if you run into another relationship, you are running with the same mindset. You will build the same relationship with different people. You will build the same relationship with different people. User, I'm fine. So, and that is why it requires a thinking energy to first identify the relationship deeply before you move into action, before you move into addressing that situation. Do not stop at emotional energy level. Do not stop at emotional level. Move to thinking level to see critically, why is this? Why is this so? Why have I not been moving up in my businesses? Why am I not enjoying my relationship? Why is this not working? Why is that not working? And when you find the answer, you begin to put it up. The behavior your situation requires, you begin to behave that manner. You have got to live effectively to build effective change your life requires. Everything that you wish for requires a behavior. And you cannot pray yourself out of a situation you behave yourself into. Guys, you can follow this platform. You can follow the platform, you can share, you can like. Let other people enjoy the conversation. Let other people see what we're doing here. We help people think rightly, solve their issues, and become a free individual. We help people build the right mindset, right approach to life, and be free and become a free individual. Let's follow the platform. Let's like, let's share. Let's like and let's share. Mina, thank you. Thank you. So I'm about to leave, but I believe that we have enjoyed the conversation. We've enjoyed the conversation that to effect any change, we have got to build a certain lifestyle, and we've got to go through the 3 channels I've mentioned: the energy, the emotional energy phase, where you identify the situation. But you need to move out of your emotional energy phase and begin to think. That's the thinking energy phase. Begin to think about the situation. How did I get here? And how can I get out of here? And then once you identify what will take you out there, begin to do them. That's behavioral energy. Emotional energy, thinking energy, behavioral energy. That is what you need to effect a change. That is what you need to effect a change. And let me tell you, you do not need to do anything big. You just have to begin to do something on a daily basis. You do not have to do something big, but you just have to start living differently on a daily basis. Once you identify the solution, you begin to live it gradually. You begin to live it on a daily basis. Begin to identify the skills you need to build and begin to build them. You begin to identify the relationship you need to build and begin to build them. You begin to identify the location you need to be and begin to go there. The conversation you need to be having, and you start to have that conversations. It's about building that behavior that we now culminate to the change that you seek. As we are building new behaviors, as we are taking actions over every situation that need a change in our lives, I'm sure if we can follow these phases, if we can follow this pattern, you're going to generate effective change in your life. Yusuf, thank you. As I go, I wish you all the best. Have a great day. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week ahead.